My guest today is Carole Mac. She's a lady I met a couple of years ago, and she has been on an interesting journey. Traumatic experiences with her son, writing a book, loving food, and traveling Europe, and most recently, creating TV shows. I'm interested to have this conversation with Carole to explore that journey, how she's dealt with some of the challenging situations, and where she's now at in her life. Carole, thank you for joining me today. Quick overview there, but again, there's so many things for us to talk about in this session. I think they're the best starting points, and although it's not necessarily a pleasant subject to talk about, but just for the context of everybody listening, what happened with your son?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Philip, for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and we've been on some really interesting journeys, and I'm so happy to discuss it with you. So thank you for this opportunity. It really sort of all of my internal work and inside job started with the sickness and death of my son. So how it went down, this was my first child, only child. And he was born with like perfect APGAR scores, meaning, according to the hospital, totally healthy. And about 4 months in, he just didn't have the head control that like the books were saying what to expect in your first year were saying that should be. I don't know. I'm a first-time mom. So I take him to the pediatrician, and it kind of goes down from there. And one day I take him to the pediatrician. I'm like, I know something's not right. And he called me the next morning. He's like, I've been up all night and I've been talking to all of my colleagues. I think your son might be having seizures. You need to pack a bag and go to the hospital right now and expect to be admitted. This isn't a good thing. So it was kind of like, what? Like it went from like maybe a little something to like, you got to go to the hospital and plan to be there. And it was getting a bag and a huge fury and just terror. Like I was in utter terror. And then from then on, it just went from test, surgery, test, surgery. And eventually we went to Cleveland Clinic. And within 20 minutes, we saw a specialist. And within 20 minutes, he said, your son is probably not going to see his second birthday. And that was the moment that was the most life-defining moment for me. And it was basically, I can't do this. Like, I just felt in my, like, how can I possibly do this? Like, take me. I can't watch my son go through this. I'll do it. And TJ was the most joyful, happy child I've ever, my son TJ, basically the happiest human I've ever known. And so when I would hold him and look into his eyes, he just emanated peace and love and laughter, this huge laughter. And he would basically say to me, I'm okay. Like, it's supposed to be this way. There's nothing wrong here. I'm happy. I'm not supposed to be any other way. And so he basically taught me how to live. And then he ended up passing away, but he taught me how to live. So that's kind of how that went down.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah.
The comment that you made before we started recording, though, perception, it's one of the chains in my framework. And just to hear you make that comment of TJ being, this loving child, laughing, happy, joyful, almost in, I guess, contrast to you at that moment, because of everything that was happening. You had the understanding of what was happening. You created that perception of, this is the end of the world as you know it. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but again, it's, you get that type of news and you just like, it stops you in your tracks. It's like, okay, everything that I know is about to change. And then you start to create perceptions of what might happen, how it may look, how it may feel. You have no idea what that's going to be like, but you work yourself up. And so interested to, I guess, continue that journey. What happened for you? How did you start to deal with that change?
So, and one of the reasons I love what you do with the unchained concept. How do you free yourself from the chains of your own mind? I love it. And I think it's so brilliant what you do. So I guess at that moment I had my own, so many societal and my own internal chains. It was, I'll never be happy if my child's not okay. It was that my child's not okay. And actually TJ taught me that, no, mom, I actually am okay. And it's not like he didn't know what was going on. He knew exactly what was going on. But he didn't make it wrong. He didn't live in fear. And I didn't know that that was possible. Like, I did not know you could be terminally ill and happy and joyful and peaceful and live an amazing life. And that's what he taught me. And it was basically like, no, nothing's wrong. Everything's exactly as it should be. I'm actually okay. This is not fun, but I'm okay. And you can be okay too. And so also, I went from thinking that he was a sick child to being a perfect ladybug. And this is kind of goes back to my book. And so there was one huge perception change that changed my entire life. Like the chain that I had myself wrapped in chains, and all of this information at Cleveland Clinic. And on the way home, it was literally moments after I heard that news, and I'm on the way home in the passenger side of my car. It's like December, freezing, dark, cold rain, disgusting, everything. And I'm not even sure I'm breathing. And I just remember thinking, like, my life is over. I can't do it. This is impossible. Like, this is unbearable, absolutely unbearable. I can't do it. And all of a sudden I had this flash in my head, this divinely guided flash in my head. And just as my whole family was in the doctor's office, in this white, stark white doctor's office in a circle around TJ, I saw in this divine flash, big cartoon horses, it's so strange, in a circle, and they were my family. And then in the middle was TJ, and he was a ladybug in, like, a nanosecond, almost like a dream. Like, you understand on every level this thing, even though it sounds strange, right? So I had this flash of these horses in the hospital room sobbing because they just learned that their TJ ladybug was going to live a short life, just sobbing and in misery. And TJ looks up at me and he's like, mom, why are you crying? Like, genuinely confused. And he's like, I'm a ladybug. This is like who we are. And I only know how to be a ladybug. I don't know how to be a horse. And so it was this perception change completely that was like, oh, he's okay. He's supposed to be this way. He was meant to live this life. He's not supposed to be any other way. And I can't fight it. I can't change it. And so I have to learn to change my perception to him. If I love him, I have to love all of it, which means the disease, the life expectancy. Like, I have to love and accept him completely. I can't just pick and choose. Like, I get the good stuff, but not the hard stuff. So he taught me that, no, you change your perception. And it's that I'm actually a ladybug. I'm perfect and there's nothing wrong. And so he went from being a sick boy to a perfect ladybug in my mind. And we related to him like that ever since. And the whole city of Columbus, Ohio related to him like that. And now ladybugs are known in my circles as these perfect, different ways of, like, humans with some difference. And we're all a ladybug essentially. But he was like, this is who I am. And so I got home and I literally wrote The Gift of the Ladybug in like an hour and a half. And it was days before Christmas. I had it bound and I got it for him and I was able to read it to him for Christmas. And essentially it's the story of these horses who have this beautiful baby and they don't realize he's a ladybug because they're so in love with him. Then they realize he's a ladybug and he's like, I don't know what to do with ladybugs. And the ladybug teaches him that he's perfect exactly as he is, even though he has a short life to live. And so he changes them and he helps them accept it. And he helps then the life that we lived together became joyful and one of acceptance. Now, I'm not going to say I wasn't terrified, because I was the whole time, but I also had the perception change and the wisdom of TJ showing me every day, all day, when I looked at him, that nope, it's supposed to be this way. Nope, don't go into fear. I'm okay. Yeah, this hurts, but it's not a tragedy. And he just changed the entire way I looked at it. So then I had to learn, I chose to learn to live as he does. Or he did, which is I'm going to be happy, joyful, and peaceful, regardless of the circumstances of my life, which is I lost a child and had to live without the thing I wanted most in the world. So that's how that went down. The Gift of the Ladybug. It's a great book. It's TJ's lessons in a children's book.
But again, you've been able to channel that situation into something that can now help others. It sounds like it's helped you deal with the situation as well, so that you've been able to say, okay, yes, it's an unpleasant situation. I've come to accept it for what it is. There's a hidden meaning and a message there. There was a purpose to it. There are still things that I can do for myself within this life.
And other people, right? So I wrote the book and it became a bibliotherapy book, which is basically a book that hospitals, doctors, therapists, occupational therapists, palliative care, they use in their practices as a way of bringing comfort. It's just this like big beam of comforting light. It's TJ's message of how to live powerfully, I think. And it's like, okay, whatever you have going in your life, if you can reframe it, you can find a way to happiness and peace, regardless of what you're living in. And it's that lesson that this book gives and teaches. And we give proceeds to children with critical illness, like United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation and Make-A-Wish and Nationwide Children's Hospital and things like that. So I've been able to raise $100,000 for children with critical illness to help comfort them through this book. And that, sometimes you can't change the outcome. And if you can't change the outcome, you got to change your perception.
Yeah, that's an amazing achievement, the amount of money that you've been able to raise there. Congratulations. And with it being a book now, it has that ability to continue to live on and continue supporting people for now until, forever, potentially.
I was so honored to. Thank you. Yeah, it was really important to me to build a legacy for TJ because he taught me. I really am convinced he has the secrets of life. He's like the most wise person I've ever known in my life. And so to leave a legacy that, to teach the power of living in the most profound way that I've ever seen, and to let it pervade and ripple out and reach who it needs to reach on the planet. It's kind of amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
It's a powerful story, both yours and TJ's.
Thank you.
So talk me through, obviously there was that situation where everything came to a head.
Yeah.
Obviously you're now out the other side of that, but I can imagine that was quite a dark period for you. What were some of the things that you had to deal with? Obviously the relationship with friends and family, perceptions we've already mentioned as one thing. I don't want to necessarily ask you how it was. I can probably imagine how painful and frustrating and tearful it was and all of those sorts of words. But I guess that what I want to understand and more to help other people understand as well is, how did you try and deal with that? What did you do? What did you decide? What did you find worked for you to help you come to terms with the fact that, okay, I knew this situation was going to happen. It was building. We had the diagnosis. I had the time with TJ. That was all great.
Yeah.
But obviously there is unfortunately that moment where it all changed. So working from that point forwards, what did you do to support yourself? How did you, get to that point of saying, okay, I've come to terms with this. It's not ideal. It's happened. I've still got a life to live. There are things that I want to explore and understand and do. Again, for helping people who are listening or watching to say, okay, I can see Carole has been able to work through this. Yeah.
I would say it started with two decisions. The first decision was, this will not define me. This disease will not define TJ, which he wouldn't allow it to do. And this losing my child will not define me. That was the decision. And the second decision was, I'm going to learn to live, or I'm committed to living as powerfully as TJ lived, which is, I'm going to find a way to be happy, joyful, peaceful anyway, and to live my best life, to follow my dreams, and to still create joy in my life, no matter what. Because that's, in my mind, that's the most powerful way to honor him. And so that's what I committed to doing. So it was those two decisions that guided my recovery. Now that, you can make a decision, right? But then living it every day and then making it true are two totally different things. So it was an easy decision to make, especially looking at TJ and being like, yep, I'm going to do this too. But then in the throes of just unbelievable grief, you know, for 2 years, I had insomnia. I was nauseous all day. My cells ached almost like I had the flu at all times. Like, and the thing is it's almost like you have the flu, but you're never going to get well. It felt like, because TJ was gone and he's never going to come back. So how am I ever going to feel better? And I remember being like, nope, that's not the attitude. That's not the perception that we need, that like something bad happens to you and you can't be happy again. Nope, we're changing that around. TJ taught me that I can be happy again. So I kept coming back to my decision. And then that decision allowed me to make many choices. I got grief counseling, which was tremendously helpful. And about a year, I mean, I did a lot of self-talk. Oh, one thing is I got a punching bag and I punched the shit out of my punching bag over and over and over, and like named the thing I was most sad about at the time, allow it. So I call this is a nice trick for anyone dealing with anything. It's called the art of acceptance. Allow, release, trust. So I would allow the thoughts, the most ugly, the grossest, things I didn't want to think the most, allow them and just name them as, this one's grief, this one's anger, this one's bitterness, this one's resentment, and then be really specific. Like, I'm so pissed off. I have a notebook this thick full of all the things I need to do, you know, around TJ's care, and hit the thing, and like you would kind of, it would get it out. So allow the thing, then name it and release it. So allow it, release it onto a bag, into a journal, talk with your friends, cry hard, sprint, like anything you can do, scream into a pillow to get it out. And then trust that you have what it takes to get through, that you can do it. You know, just trust. So in the throes, over and over and over and over and over, I would do that. Just constantly let it in, let it out, and trust. Let it in, let it out, and trust. And then about a year after TJ passed away, I was still just miserable, even with all this other stuff I'm doing. I was miserable. I'm like, I am not living how he taught me. I have to do something drastic. This is not working. And I thought, well, what would I do? You know, say I don't have grief. I'm not in grief. What would I do? And I was like, I still don't know. I'm just miserable. And then eventually I thought, okay, what if you had 1 year left to live and you were not in grief and money was no object? Like, take off every barrier. And then what would you do normally that would make you the most exciting? What's the most exciting thing you can do? You can't get excited right now, but normally you could. Pretend you can. What is it? And it was like, I would go to Italy. And I started getting lighter. I was in the shower with my hair. I'd go to Italy. Oh my God. For 3 months. I've never lived abroad. I've always wanted to live abroad. I'd live for 3 months. I would harvest olives. Food is one of my loves. I would harvest olives. I would make wine. I would make cheese. I'd start my first food show. That's my biggest dream, to have shows on food and wine. I'd start my first food show. I'd write about food. Another dream. I'm like, I'll start a blog. And got light. And so I ended up doing it. I started a blog. It was called Chop Sizzle Pop. I went to Italy for 3 months. I worked on organic farms. I traded my time for room and board so money was no longer an issue. And I worked on organic farms, made cheese, made wine, and harvested olives. And something about the hard work in a farm all day, doing the thing that I love the most, and then the presence of tasting a thing, it would like remove me from my pain. I'd be like, oh, I got relief. And then I'd be exhausted at night. So the insomnia went away, and just like doing, and then following my dream. So it was infusing passion, following my dream, taking me all the way out of all of the triggers. I'm not driving by the hospital every day. I took me out of my habits. You know, I was away from all the families that had kids the exact same age. And here I am with no kid. And all I can do is think about my no kid. I go to a place where there's no kid. And I am doing something that's not related to that. And that totally helped. And I got back and I was like, that was food bliss. And I named it food bliss. And what food bliss is like the relief, is like pure bliss. I was like, I was able to find bliss again. Oh, I remember that I can be happy. I remembered it like viscerally. I felt it again. And I was like, it's possible. If I could do it for a minute, I could do it for my life. This is what TJ taught me. Okay. And I was like, I'm going to move to New York City. I'm going to do food bliss all the time. I'm going to go to Chinatown. I'm going to like make my own little food bliss adventures all the time. and I'm going to pursue my passion of doing shows on wine and food. And this is how I'm going to pull myself out of grief. And so I did that. I moved to New York. I worked for another food personality. I took a bunch of classes and shot a bunch of pilots and shot and wrote and directed and did my dream and did Food Bliss. And eventually I was like, one day I woke up, I was like, I'm happy again. What? I did not know that was possible. And eventually I did what I said. I'm no longer defined by this in my life. And I'm happy, joyful, peaceful, and genuinely thriving.
It's amazing to hear that. It warms me so much to hear, you know, that you've been able to effectively redefine yourself. You know, again, find those things that fill you with joy, that make you feel good. It's, you know, one of the things that I talk about, you know, in my book and my programs is freedom activities, the things that make us feel good, that we should focus on and try and do regularly because they make us feel good. So, you know, a lot of the time in my emails and things, I talk about, you know, what are your freedom activities this weekend for those people who are stuck in a, you know, a 9 to 5. It's like, okay, well, here's now your time and your opportunity. Make the time for your freedom activities, even if it's just going for a walk, if it makes you feel good. And it sounds like you've found that going to Italy, having that experience. And it is also great to hear it because location is one of the chains that I also talk about. Sometimes we can get stuck
so in line. This is totally aligned.
And it's like, actually, this is holding me back. I need to get out of this situation. Maybe there's a new job opportunity, or, you know, there's something that's been holding my back. It's, you know, it's the draw of the high school that I went to, or whatever it may be. And it's like, oh, I just feel like I have to stay here. And actually that may not be serving us. So interesting to hear that you found that, I guess, that release.
Yeah.
Moving country, doing something different for a couple of months, completely taking yourself out of that normal experience that you are having. And I think that's a powerful thing for other people to hear as well.
Yeah. Right. And you can do it like for 2 months, but you can also do it for 1 hour, go to a, you know, I would go to Chinatown or Koreatown or something and go for 1 hour and do something you love, like find the best soup dumpling in Chinatown or something. You're right. And it was also like, I couldn't stay in the house any longer. The location of being in the same house where all the triggers were in his bedroom and everything else. So I moved to New York. I moved completely. And that really helped. I love that that's one of your guideposts, because it is very, very powerful.
Yeah. So talk me through the situation now. So I understand you've done some pilots for shows. You're currently trying to see who's interested in those, and you've got the goal to, okay, can you turn it into a series? Talk me through that. You know, what is that process for you? Is it, you know, knocking on doors? Is it trying to, you know, get referrals and connections? Because one of the other things that, you know, I support people with is they want to get out of the rat race and, you know, what maybe the 9 to 5 or a corporate existence. It's like, okay, what have you got a passion for? What do you have a vision for yourself in terms of how you want to spend your time, you know, your energy, building a business, you know, all those sorts of things. I'm just interested to understand that and how you are approaching that situation. Because again, you know, we've all got to sadly, the world we live in, we still have bills to pay and we have food to buy, and, you know, all those sorts of things. So just help me understand that with, you've got this passion piece and it brings you the joy, and you're doing the shows and you've got a couple of pilots. What else are you doing to sort of support that while you're working on that vision piece?
Yeah. So same thing. I was in food I was in sports, and then I was in food. I was in sports. I was a gymnast at Michigan State. And then I worked for Nike and did an intern with the United States Olympic Committee and IMG. And so I was in sports solidly. And then I realized, like, I'm just not a corporate girl. I worked for Nike, and if I was a corporate girl, I would still be there. I still wear their shoes I will not wear another shoe. I love the company completely, but I'm not a corporate girl. I need to work for myself and make creations, things that only I can make and that no one else can make. It's just something that I feel in my soul deeply that I need to do with my life. So I decided to leave Nike. I went back and got my MBA and started, I studied international. It was an international MBA program, and I lived overseas. And then I studied entrepreneurship. And then I did a food business. in Chicago for 3 years. And then I kind of got off track a little bit. I wouldn't say off track. I was like, I'm going to have a family, moved back to Columbus, Ohio, and tried real estate because you're an entrepreneur, you own your own schedule. And my dad is phenomenal and loved it. And he's like my hero. So I was like, well, if he loves it, I'll definitely love it. And I realized, no, I don't. So I love food and sports. And then I got pregnant. And literally while I was pregnant, I was watching the Food Network. And I was like, I had never done media yet at this point. Just I had a culinary food business. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do that. I don't know how I know that. And that's so weird because I'm in Ohio, pregnant, bought a house, pretty much going to stay here. And I'm in real estate. Why do I want to do food shows in New York? It was so confusing, right? But I was pregnant and I'm convinced TJ planted that dream inside me to have something to move towards and forward and pull me out after he was gone. Of course, I knew none of this. And so after he passed away, and then I was like, what do I do? What do I do? Well, I want to do food shows. Let me just go out and do the thing. So one tip I would say, if you want to be an author, you want to be a executive producer, which I wanted to be both of those things, just do the thing. Go write the book. Go shoot the thing on your camera. You don't have to pay anything. Like, do the thing you want to be. And so I went and did that. And then I moved to New York and same thing. And then work for the best person that you can find to do that. So I worked for a food personality who had the first show on Food Network and won a James Beard Award for the show that he had. And he did 2,500 episodes. And he wrote about food and made 2,500 episodes about food on Food Network and was a restaurant critic. And I wanted all of those things. So I worked for him to learn how to do it. And then I did it also. And then I kept doing it. I kept going to classes and learned how to produce, learned how to write, learned how to edit, learned how to script, learned how to direct, learned how to create shows, learned how to be on camera, you know, all of that. And then shot a pilot, just do it while I'm studying under someone that really knows. And then finally I worked for Wine for Food. It's a wine import company called wineforfood.com, wine and the number 4 food.com. And I then finally got paid to make videos on food and wine. So I was an executive producer for wineforfood.com, and I made something like 12 series, follow that Somm School Insider. Sommelier is a wine expert. And I ended up basically doing food and wine shows, following sommeliers and like, what are wine tastings, all these shows. I made 250 episodes over like about a total, like a 6-year period. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to do it on my own now. I'm ready to go all in, and I want to get to the next level, like broadcast, like streaming, go from digital to television. And so that's the stage where I am now. So I made, after I did Food Bliss in Italy, I promised myself, once I know how to make shows, like I'm going to go to New York and learn how to do all this. And once I know how to make shows, I promised myself that, and once I heal emotionally, I will do Food Bliss for other people, and I will make a show doing what I did basically in Italy. So I did that last summer. I went to Sicily. I found someone who lost a child like me. Her name's Kelly Cervantes. She's literally amazing. Her husband just wrapped his last show as Hamilton on Broadway, and they lost their child, Adelaide. They called her LadyBug, which is crazy. And she didn't know she could ever be happy again. And I called her and I said, can I treat you to a 5-day food extravaganza in Sicily? And we're going to eat all your favorite foods with the sole purpose of helping you find joy again, so that you can viscerally feel it, so that you know it's possible. Then hopefully then you can find happiness in your life. And she's like, yep, absolutely. So we did it. We went and, you know, all expense paid. Cannolis are favorite dessert. We went and did cannolis with the best pastry, female pastry chef in all of Sicily, and had insane cannolis. And then she loves shrimp. We went and got like these crazy red shrimp on the Mediterranean. They eat them raw. It's insane. We did that. We made like sausage from scratch with Michelin butchers. We went on the most amazing. She had never been to a vineyard, and she always wanted to. So I took her to the 2 best vineyards in all of Sicily. And she said literally that the experience, this Food Bliss experience, showed her that she can find joy again and that she can be happy. And so she transformed and said, okay, now I actually want to be happy. And now I know I can. thanks to this process. And she wrote the book called Normal Broken. It's a book on how to get through grief. And the last chapter is when you're ready to be happy again. And she cites, it's like a living story about her foodless experience, and you can read about it. It's so beautiful. It's on all like Amazon and everywhere you can find books, but she talks about food bliss. So food bliss, you don't have to obviously do food, but for me, that's my joy, my passion, my dream. So, but it's essentially infusing, just like you said, freedom, infusing your life with the thing you love the most, as well as go make your dreams come true, just little baby steps of making your dreams come true. And then also keep infusing joy, and then trust and believe you can do it. And all of those things brought me through from real estate, not doing what I love, to doing what I absolutely want to do, where I want to do it in my life. And yeah, it's possible.
So pretty speechless right now, just listening to you talk about that, but not just about your own experience there, but how you've actually then taken that, because you recognize that it worked for you, and presented it to another lady and like, you know what, why not try it? Let's just see. Right. We've been through similar sorts of situations in terms of the trauma and the grief and all those sorts of things. Why not try it? What have we got to lose? So great to hear that you were able to take her on that journey as well.
Yeah.
So final thoughts and comments. I know you just did a couple there, but if there's somebody listening to this who is going through a challenging situation at the minute, they're trying to work out what their next steps are, they're trying to deal with a situation currently, what would you say to them? What tips or suggestions or guidance would you give them? Yeah. Just again, based on the experience that you've been through, the things you've had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I've said these earlier, but the most powerful tools that worked for me are, one, ask yourself, what's the most exciting thing I can do right now? And really find a way to live into that. If it's going to Italy for 3 months, look, you can figure it out. It sounds like impossible, but you can find a way. Or that's one. So ask yourself that. And if you take your life 1 year at a time and you do the most exciting thing you can possibly do right now, then your life is like insanely amazing. And then you've taken steps. Now, sometimes I get it. People have families, they have life, they have financial constraints. They can't just go to Italy for 3 months. But perhaps if food is your thing, you can go to like an amazing restaurant, ask the chef, would you mind, could I do a day with you? Could I do 1 hour with you? Or just think of something it's got to be a stretch though, not something super easy, but a little bit of a stretch. And do the thing that's the most exciting thing that you can think of. Then I would say, if you want to be something, go be it. Like now, go be it now in any little way. And then study from someone who's very good at it. Right. So write the book, sing the song, record it, put it on YouTube. Write the children's book, just bind it, try it yourself, shoot the movie, start the business. And if you have to supplement, that's fine. You don't have to go broke doing this, but do the thing you want to be, and then study from the best, and then just keep taking baby steps on your way to doing it. And eventually, also it's all a lot of mind work too. You have to believe you're worth it and you're worthy of it, and believe it can come true. And then it's, you kind of manifest it at the same time you take these physical outward steps, but it really is an inside job as well. So inside out, outside in, you work it from both angles.